We're going to move right along because we want to cover a lot of ground in the time that we have. So I'm going to introduce the panelists while they're bringing the chairs up, and they'll join me on stage. We've structured this next part of the session to bring together a leader from city government, a leader from business, and a leader from innovation and nonprofit communities looking to support both cities and businesses in climate action, to bring different perspectives into a shared conversation about how we reimagine cities. So I'd like to welcome Deputy Mayor Arjen Kapteins from The Hague. Before serving as Deputy Mayor, Arjen was already involved in local politics as a council member in The Hague for about 10 years. In 2017, he was one of the leaders of an initiative to establish the Hague Climate Pact, which has served as a precursor for The Hague's current climate agreement, which the city launched last year. Welcome, Arjen. Second, we have Benoit Bazin. Benoit is the chairman and CEO of Saint-Gobain here in France. Welcome. And we have Dr. Kirsten Dunlop, CEO of Climate Kick, where I work. Kirsten has been with Climate Kick for 8 years and is a founder of the Systems Transformation Hub, a partnership of organizations seeking to bring systems thinking and doing to Europe. She has extensive experience in academia, banking, insurance, and is a real driver of ambitious thinking and working together. So we're delighted to have them all here. So the structure of this is we've consulted together on some questions that I'll ask the panelists to begin to start the conversation. Hopefully this will all go well and we'll get into a bit of an exchange amongst the panelists as well. Are you able to hear okay? It's okay, all right. So let me start the first question, Arjen, with you. The Hague has developed its plans, and you're one of the mission cities in the European mission. To what degree do you, as a city leader, engage with the question of reimagining your city? What does that suggest to you, considering strategies, actions you have in place and are working to implement?
Thank you, and nice to be here. The Hague, we are the international city of justice and peace, and we're also very close to the sea. We have 11 kilometers of coastline, and most of the city is below sea level. So we have a huge interest ourselves to become climate neutral. And as a city, we have the official target to be climate neutral in 2030, and we have this target for 15 years now, and we're still working on it. And to achieve this, I think it's really important to imagine our cities in general, not just as climate neutral cities, but as cities with a thriving environment, with clean air, healthy soil, biking lanes, beautiful parks and beaches. Climate neutral means, for me, healthy living, quality of life, places you want to be in. And I think it's really important to share this broader perspective, not just as a public administration, but work on this together with our residents, with local organizations, and also the private sector. When you have this vision together, you know where to work on together. And that's why I'm very proud in The Hague. We have the Hague Climate Agreement, where we have partnerships for sustainability. And with this contract, we ask our community to develop climate deals, which are projects we work on together with local parties to make our city healthier and more sustainable. And I give two short examples of climate deals. One of the climate deals goes about car sharing. There are a lot of residents in The Hague who have a private car and they don't use it quite often. So what we do in The Hague is we facilitate communities to share their cars, and which is of course more eco-friendly and also saves a lot of space which is really needed for example, trees or other functions in the city. And this climate deal is run by residents, And as a public administration, we try to facilitate by giving small subsidies or building networks, sharing experiences about car sharing, and that works really well. We have about 30 of these kind of projects already in The Hague. And another climate deal which is worth noticing, I think it's about district heating. We have to step from fossil fuel to other ways of heating our houses in The Hague. We have a lot of potential for thermal energy in our city, and which needs district heating systems. And together with our social housing companies and with building companies, we are working on about 1/3 of our city going from fossil fuel to district heating on thermal energy. So that are two projects we are working on within our climate agreement.
Great, thanks very much. Excuse me. Thanks very much, Arjen. We'll come back to you in just a minute. I'll bring Benoit into the conversation now. Your company helps to build cities. As you think about the challenges and potential futures that we face, what does it mean to you in your role to reimagine a city?
Well, first, I think we need to realize that within cities, we spend 90% of our time within buildings. So we should think about urban planning, but we should think about the building materials and the buildings themselves to provide, as Josh mentioned, safety, to provide thermal comfort, heat waves, winter, air quality, acoustics. So the well-being of the people within buildings is extremely important. It's true for private buildings, housing, and also public buildings, schools, hospitals, all the public buildings. What we do at Saint-Gobain, being the leader worldwide on light and sustainable construction, we provide light construction when it's time to build new buildings with much lower weight of materials, therefore less CO2. And there are many ways to build with light construction faster and better for big cities, notably in emerging markets. And second, renovation. So we provide the skills and the expertise of Saint-Gobain on both light construction, renovation, but taking care fundamentally of the well-being of the people and trying to help to be inclusive and being well adapted country by country.
Thanks very much. I think we have a little bit of time. I'll dig in just a little bit more for you in the time, given the time we have here. Building design and construction sector has quite in-depth and complex relationships with city government. How do you think about the opportunities to work together in support of needed transformations we face, considering issues of affordability, social inclusion, climate resilience, and vibrant businesses? To what degree does innovation help Saint-Gobain in its work?
Well, first, I would say the first positive point, we have to keep in mind that within the built environment, technical solutions do exist. So the true innovation is more the scale, because technical solutions, creating a passive house in Amsterdam, in Manchester, or in Africa, we know how to do it. The true difficulty is how to scale, and therefore you need indeed partnership. You need also innovation, and we invest a lot. You know, the building materials manufacturers, Saint-Gobain, we spend 600 million euros every year on innovation. We have more than 40 partnerships with startups in multiple countries every year. What is our innovation is to decarbonize our processes. We dropped 34% our CO2 emissions in the last 6 years, provide low carbon, circular economy. We partner with cities. With the city of Paris, we have a partnership to take back all the glass, the plasterboard of demolition job sites. We have launched 100% recycled gypsum. We have total Saint-Gobain worldwide in 80 countries, more than 26% recycled materials in our production. So we can innovate a lot on low carbon, circular economy. But fundamentally, the innovation for us, in order to reinvent the cities, is how we partner together with local competencies. Josh was very clear that we need to use local competencies, local jobs, with the city officials, with the architects, with the building materials, the distributors, the contractors. So this is why we launched 3 years ago an observatory for sustainable construction in order to scale and propagate, all the ideas on what means sustainable construction, what are the levers, what are the barriers, kill the misconception that sustainable construction could be more expensive, and fundamentally accelerate, scale what we can do because the technical solutions do exist. So that's what we aim at. Innovation is more scaling versus inventing something totally different.
Thanks very much. All right. Excuse me. Kirsten, you've led Europe's leading climate innovation community for nearly a decade now. While there have been some progress made in mobilizing action of greater scope, scale, and urgency, we also see that we are not making enough progress in response to the scientific guidance of the UN and the IPCC. In your view, what is preventing us from the needed mobilization? And given those barriers, how can innovation specifically help us move farther, faster?
Well, it's a very topical question, given where we are 10 years on from the Paris Agreement and what's happening over the other side of the pond, as you would say in Australia. I think there are many answers to the question of what's getting in the way. Why are we not mobilizing at scale and speed? I'm going to pull out 3 or 4, number one of which is habit. And I'm particularly wishing to signal out here the habit of what we have taught ourselves in terms of what we know, how we're trained to think, how we're trained to act. And I think about the work that we are doing to support hundreds of cities to transform, and the work we're doing actually also here to try and bridge these discussions with cities, with industry. One of the habits that keeps coming out is you talk with national governments about one of the critical elements that would be needed, which is that ministries across environment, construction, economy, finance talk to each other. That's not a habit. And it's an incredibly difficult habit to retrain how to get people to talk with each other differently. We have trained ourselves for the last 150 years to look at big, complex, difficult problems and decide to compartmentalize them into small actions that we can do in incremental ways, in siloed and fragmented mechanistic ways. And when confronted with the challenge that the thing we need to do now is not pull everything into bite-sized actions, but to work in holistic and systemic ways, you can see the body language. People step back and say, oh, but that's very complex, that's very difficult, that's very big. Our habits of how to act, how to think, how to collaborate are fundamentally out of sync with the need of what we need to do. So I think there's a huge issue of retraining our habits and retraining our habits to be significantly more capable of dealing with uncertainty and complexity. That leads me to the second major challenge that we observe in the practice that we are. It's a very simple thing, but it's a very deeply human thing: fear. Look at the fear that is rippling through the world now, at least on the global north, the fear of being called out, the fear of being incarcerated, the fear of not knowing whether the world we are building is going to be wealthy enough, safe enough, productive enough. The fear, and it is really easy to feel it when you notice the emotions that get into the room when we start to hear the discourse shift towards competitiveness, strategic autonomy, and security. You can feel the relief of, oh, we can get back to something we know. We can work on competitiveness. We all know how to do that. That's good for business. The complexity, the difficulty of trying to hold a space, of working into the unknown, not so much the solutions, but the practices, the habits, the institutional arrangements, the organizational things. So I think there's something about understanding fear is really getting in our way, and I would link that to a third element, which is our emotional fitness for the change we need to do for ourselves. And one of the things I observe is the world that we have made of a constant growing addiction to dopamine signals, chemical signals of rapid response, immediate saturation of information, immediate need to know, instantaneity. It is literally triggering our brains to be predominantly acting as limbic systems. So the spaciousness, the sense of possibility, the creativity, the space for building partnerships that are long-term, sustained, multifaceted, deeply collaborative, that requires a capacity of emotions, of cognitive reasoning together, a capacity to behave differently that we are training ourselves out of with the ways in which we're living. Even just the sleep cycles. We are not getting enough space, physically and emotionally, to do better work. And I think the last reflection is we are dealing with interests, vested interests, self-interests, the combination of fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty, of difference, trained habits. Everything feeds into the instinct to stay with what we know. But there is one other critical fact that I think is one of our #1 learnings working in innovation. Most of the research in the work that we're doing now to partner with communications agencies that are specialized in this, to partner with arts, culture, with organizations and people who are specialized in how to think about shifting narratives, what comes across constantly across all cultures in the world, 20% of humans are genuinely motivated by morality, by some sense of saving the world. 80% of us are motivated by a sense of, what is life good for? Who am I with? Who do I care about? Is this interesting? Is it sexy? Is it what we need? Is it in my own interests? Also for the basic needs of livelihoods. 80% of us are motivated by interest. And that's not evil interest. That's just a natural 80% of a need to understand, if I'm going to do this transition, what's in it for me, for my kids, for my school, for the people I go and play sports with? And we have not designed the narrative on innovation or change for that 80%. We have designed a narrative for fear, and that is not, as we learned from COVID, fear does not sustain us. So the #1 answer, I think, for innovation is it has to build hope. And it has to demonstrate, most importantly, the capacity to learn. The one thing that we can lock. We demonstrate possibilities, we show that it's good for well-being, as Joshua was saying, we show it's good for livelihoods. This is repathing ourselves to different habits.
Great, thanks. And I think, go ahead. And I think that provides a very great connection to Josh's remarks to start us off here. And I think the next question it leads perfectly into for you, Arjen, which is, given that diverse set of drivers and motivations at a personal level and in our communities, it's difficult to reconcile those and bring them all together in a conversation with your citizens about change. So what are the drivers of change in your city in light of imperatives for climate resilience, economic competitiveness and well-being, social inclusion, all of those things? Again, stemming back to Kirsten's comments about it's not just about the analytical components of that, it's about the feelings and our understanding of belonging in our community and feeling safe, feeling like we're thriving, not just hoping to survive.
Yes, I think one of the main starting point is not accepting the status quo. And I think many residents also in The Hague feel that. And I think we have not be afraid to give our residents more responsibility for the change they want for their own communities. Because residents, they know their streets and their neighborhoods best. They care about their communities and they care about each other. So we have to put them in front, and that's we have really good experiences with that in The Hague. But still, as Kirsten said, it is very difficult because change is not something that is part of being human. As being a human, you want to stick to what you know, and it's not always easy to have this kind of discussions. For example, when it goes to mobility and the space cars take in our cities, it are very difficult discussions. But when we accept, why would we accept the status quo that 80% of our public space is taken by cars, which only in The Hague 30% of the people use? And instead of parking cars, we could also make playgrounds and plant trees and make social spaces where people can meet. But that needs what really makes a difference then is to have engagement of local residents. As a pushing factor for public governments to set the steps forward to make that possible, and that's and of course there are also people and strengths and stakeholders who are fighting against it. But we have to do this in a broader discussion, working towards the city we want to live in together.
Great, thanks very much. So we have enough time to improvise here a little bit. I'm going to start, Benoit, with you and the question that you've already seen, so we can start with that. But then I'll ask Kirsten and Arjen to react to what he shares with a broader lens to how do we build support for collective action, because that's clearly where we need to get to. And so Benoit, I'll start with you and say, if you were switching roles with Arjen and you were the mayor or deputy mayor, we won't give Arjen a promotion until he wins in the election, and assume the role of mayor, what would be one of the first ideas or actions you would put forward as it relates to this question of how do we build this shared future that we imagine? If you had a different hat on, how would you think about that?
Well, first, I think being a mayor is a very important job. It's not an easy one, but it's extremely important because it's truly connected to the daily local life of all the citizens. And I think in a society, and not because you are here, Arjen, but it's the most important job. I would say two things. First, think long term. I remember interacting in 2017 with the mayor of Stockholm, because they have decided in 2017 to be carbon neutral by 2035. A bit behind you, Arjen, 2035. But it was a 20 years plan. So as a mayor, you can build a long-term vision for your city, for different suburbs, and bring stability, and therefore it gives confidence to build local partnership with all the stakeholders. You have local jobs, local contractors, local communities, everything. So long-term vision is, for me, of the essence. And the second, which is obvious as a role of a mayor, is be very local. Use the local resources, because again, you are not going to adapt, if I take France, Marseille in the south on heat wave, like in the Alps. You are not going to adapt in Ghana like in Canada. So it's very important to be local. Again, the technical solutions do exist, but be very local. And then you have a lot of levers on public and private buildings. But long-term stability, long-term vision is by far the number one, because then all the value chain can get organized. You can hire local jobs, you can build local circular economy, you can have the full partnership across the board. So that would be, for me, the most important. And you get confidence, and then you build the local narrative that I will bring benefits, and I will measure the benefits to the local citizens in terms of social well-being. So for me, that would be the number one criteria.
Great. Thanks very much. Kirsten, I'll let you build on that first.
I think so. I fundamentally agree with that, and I'm thinking about we're talking about innovations, and particularly not so much the innovations of the individual solutions which we need, which unlock a sense of creativity, but the innovations in how you integrate them and the practices. One of the things that has really stuck with me all my life since I met him was a man called Leif Edvinsson, who used to run intellectual capital for Skandia. And he presented to me, when I was working for one of the big global insurers in Generali, a plan for how you could unlock the innovation in practice and process, both for long-term thinking, but also for this notion of how you combine deeply contextual, meaningful responses. And he said, if you look at the age of everybody who is in a management job. They are between 30 and 55, 60. So they are living life like this. They don't want to change everything. They have mortgages, school fees. They're worried about their life. But if you were to draw a kind of matrix between age and risk appetite, you would get a perfect smile curve. People in their 20s, teens, and people above 60, 70. So he said, it will cost you less if you take all of the people who are in the management jobs now and you pay for them to have a 10-year sabbatical to go and do what they want to do and explore the world. And in those jobs, you put a job share between the young and the older. And they will change the world. And I was thinking, now we are in a situation where we need to do intergenerational, hyperlocal, global, not by tokenism, but by design. But how would we structure for that? So we need innovation in new forms of arrangements and contracting and ownership models, intergenerational structures. That will get us a shift in the way we're thinking.
Maybe just to interact on that, it's very interesting what you say, because within Saint-Gobain, we have 130 climate catalysts to push us even faster on decarbonization, and they are in their late 20s, early 30s. And it's driving a huge force within the group. It's exactly about change.
That's perfect. And Kirsten, I'll pull moderator privilege and say, does that mean Josh gets to come work with me?
Yes, that would be
Right.
awesome.
Perfect. I'm old, he's young. It's a good combination. All right. Well, we have about a minute left. So, Arjen, you speak for cities, quite literally your city. So you get the final moment here to reflect on what you've heard and think about what you need to build collective action and support for this future we're imagining.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it is really important to find a common vision, and it has to be a long-term vision. I fully agree with that. And that, of course, it's always difficult being a political function, because in the Netherlands we have every 4 years elections, so that's my time scale. But it has to be longer. It has to be 10 or 20 years, and then we have to commit ourselves, listening and working together with every stakeholder in the city, including industry, including businesses, but also including residents and, of course, younger people as well. I want to share one example we have in The Hague. It's we are working with a permanent residents climate council. We have randomly chosen 17 inhabitants of our city. Also young people, of course, but also elder people, and also people from all different kind of neighborhoods with all different kind of backgrounds. And they are asked, we ask them for advice, and they also can advise the city council and myself on topics they choose themselves. And that's a very practical and fruitful way to engage people and to commit yourself to the voices in the city itself.
Great, thank you very much. And we're going to do a quick transition here. So one more time, let's thank the panelists for their thoughtful contribution to the session. Really.